You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding. Here are your hosts, Craig Curelop and Ziana McIntyre.
What's going on, everyone? You are listening to Investify. My name is Craig Curelop, aka the Fi Guy, and I'm here with my co-host Ziana McIntyre.
Hey, I'm good. I feel like you're hyping me to get into the ring or something. It's like a boxing match. Money. I don't know. That's how I'm
Money
feeling.
weighing in at blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you're
You
getting
better.
ready. Yeah. Not that
Right. So what's new in your
that
life,
field.
Craig?
Well, I just got back from like a 10-day trip to Mexico, which was amazing. Chill on the
Yes.
beach and, do all the Mexico things. And now I'm back and ready, rejuvenated, and ready.
Okay, I love that. I have not been in Mexico. I did have a little jaunt in Miami though, so that was nice. Here in Colorado, enjoying the gloom. It is a gloomy gloom today, but you wouldn't know that because you have left us, and now you live in
Nope.
Idaho.
You still have these
All right,
eyelashes
well,
on.
sure
What are you?
do. But talking about winning, let's bring on our guest today. Our guest is Caleb, a friend of ours at Better Wealth, and he is winning. He's figured out the money game and does it so creatively. He wrote the book, The And Asset. Definitely reach out to him if you want a copy of that book because it really breaks it down and helps you explain a pretty complicated concept that I'm really glad we got to go into in the show in a very simplified way. So, Craig, you think you're ready? Are we all ready for this?
Let's bring him on.
All right.
Caleb Guilliams, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing today, brother?
Man, if I was doing any better, I would be you. I am having a phenomenal day, and it's an honor to be on the show.
This has been a long time coming. I think we've tried to get you on for like the last 6 months. And the biggest reason why we want to have you on is because we're going to allude to this now and hit on it later. But you kind of had a subject to me that no one else has been able to describe, which I think is a phenomenal thing. But before we get into that, let's just first talk about how you first heard about financial independence.
I first found out about financial independence. I read a book called The Richest Man in Babylon, and it kind of opened my eyes to the idea of financial independence and freedom. And then I read a book that a lot of your listeners have read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it kind of clicked for me. And it was a commitment that I was going to make. I wanted to dedicate my life to go in that direction. And so I was about 15 years old, gutting chickens, read that book, and it shifted my mindset, and I've never been the same.
Getting
Chickens.
chickens. Tell us about that.
It was so I was homeschooled, oldest of 6 kids. My first job was baking bread, and we had a good family friends that had like a little chicken farm, and they essentially, if people would bring chickens, we would process them, and they would pay us. And so I got a job there, and the first week was rough because I was like, all right, what are we gonna do here? I walk in, it smells horrible, and I just learned. I'm like, okay, I get paid $1 for every chicken that I process. And Craig, you know me,
That's
and you know
it?
how competitive I can be.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
but dude, I can I could process a chicken in 45 seconds. All right.
Oh,
So
man.
What?
I'm fast.
Holy
I'm
smokes.
fast. Okay. So I learn and I start making a lot of money and I love work. I'm the kind of person that I literally could gut chickens and enjoy it. I loved that job. And I learned so much about money, about leadership, about efficiencies, so much fun. And then from there, I got a job at a bank, which was a lot more helpful for my future. But overall, I'm grateful for those 3 years. When I got a job at a bank, I stayed working at the chicken farm because I felt a loyalty of like I didn't want to let them down. And so Yes, let's just say I appreciate the chicken sandwich more than majority of people.
I feel like
Purely
I
on the
just
chicken
learned
stuff.
way too much about you.
Yeah, I feel like I'm intrigued. And so, because you were such a fast chicken cutter or whatever, was that just inherently a race for you? Because you do more chickens than anybody else? Or were they like, yo, we really like Caleb. He can process a lot of chickens for us. We're going to give him a chicken or anything like that? Or was your pay the same?
No, the money was made by just having a greater output, so producing
Okay.
more. And I was the fastest for sure. I have a couple nicks on my hand to prove to you. Let's just say it was pretty intense. But the whole goal was to get in, and you get paid $1, but it's like, again, you don't get paid for any cleaning. And then they also paid for packaging. We would have vacuum sealers and all that stuff. And so I did what I did, and you would appreciate this, Craig, is I came in, I was like, okay, we're all busting our butts off over here, and then we're cleaning the room and leaving. Well, packages are coming in, and they're packaging and all this stuff. And it's like, what if two people went packaging, two people cleaned the room, we left a little bit later and split all the profits? And so we did that. We all made more money. And then when I left, they changed the whole compensation program, because they're like, Caleb, you were very much trying to take advantage of every little piece. And that it is true. Like, tell me how everything works, and I'm going to like break it apart and try to maximize it. So I can credit my love for efficiency and like mindset about how to make things better. Like I was born with it, and it really came out from chicken farm days. And it was funny. It's like, if I was leaving early, I didn't have to get permission from my boss. I would just negotiate necks. And so I'd be like, hey, here's a neck or whatnot, and I'm going to leave early. So it taught me a lot about money.
It's kind of funny, right? Because most people who get a job at 15, 16, 17, it's like you're going to be a dishwasher or a waiter, and you kind of pretty much just get paid an hourly wage. Maybe there's a tip included. But like, this is literally the first time I've heard of anyone getting paid at 15, basically a commission job, which I think is translated into who you are today. You literally lasted at a bank for like how long? You started at a bank at age 19. How long were you there for?
So I started at a bank when I was 17. And 17. The story really goes, I was homeschooled, and so I didn't really know if I was smart. I didn't know what we were going to do. I met this guy, his name was Dick Judy, and he made one phone call, and got me a job at a bank. And so that, number one, 17-year-old kid, I'm like, wow, connections, that's kind of valuable. And so I worked there. I actually worked there for 5 years. It might shock some people. But I just knew that the bank was that platform that was going to allow me to be extremely valuable. I'm a big fan of Think and Grow Rich. And even Robert Kiyosaki talks about, don't work for money, work for value. And so I was like, I'm going to be an HR nightmare. I'm going to literally work for free. They said I could only work for 20 hours, $8 an hour, by the way. So I took a pay cut to go to the bank. I would work for free after my 20 hours. I wrote our marketing ads. I worked in our loan department. I worked in our investment department. I would go to networking events. I would talk to the CEO and figure out ways on how we could be more profitable as a bank. Like, I'm a part-time teller, but I just this was just a part of my DNA. And so it created a lot of problems with HR, but just didn't care. And then I got a job in our investment department. That was amazing. And then when I was 19 years old, the guy that ran our investment department took another job, and I became one of the youngest people in the country to have that responsibility. And that's when I spent, 2 extra years really working that while going to school, learning a ton about money. And from there, that's when I learned a ton about, different financial strategies. Some of them we'll go into, and that's kind of what opened up the door. And then I left after that, but I stayed there for like 4.5 years, and I'm grateful for that.
Wow. Okay. What were some of the light bulb moments that happened for you living at the bank, or not living, but working at the bank?
Basically,
because I feel like there was basically, I mean, it sounded like you were putting in lots of hours there, but yeah, what were some of those light bulbs that said, hey, I want to learn about money, and this is the trajectory for me? Because now you're working with money. Right.
So when I first started a job at a bank, I was very insecure. I was shy, which might shock all of you. And didn't have a lot of confidence. And I had a trainer at the time that forced me to do things that made me uncomfortable. So the interesting thing about working as a teller is I know your social security number. I know how much money you make. So people say money is taboo. I literally don't, I've never had that, because I've literally like know what people make, and it's never been weird for me, and I'm grateful for that. But like I was always terrified when people would call in and they would say, "Hey, my last name blah, 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 blah," and I can't spell. So I'm like, "Oh crap." I'm like, "Okay, can you?" So I would have like these note cards and I was like, "Okay, can you spell out your name?" And so I learned how to be a better communicator. I learned how to like make fun of myself and just lighten the mood. I learned how to like count money in front of people. I learned how to look people in the eyes. And so I learned a lot of soft skills along with being comfortable about learning how money worked. And then the bank just gave me an unbelievable opportunity to work in other departments. And I ran with it. Like I knew I could care less about money. I just knew that the bank was going to equip me with so much knowledge and so many connections. And that looking back, it was one of the best things I ever did.
I mean, so Caleb, you're running this shop at age 19. How did that feel? I suspect you had people underneath you that were older than you. Like, how did you kind of handle that? Because I know there's a lot of young people in our audience. They're landlords, they're young landlords, their tenants are probably older than them. How do you handle that? Like, who the heck is this guy? Like, this kid telling me what to do?
So I want to paint the picture for you. I'm 19 years old. I'm living with my family to save money. I'm going to school full time as a sophomore, and I had like this moment where the CEO, who's like a second father to me, pretty much said like, "Hey, he took over the the whole bank when he was 27 years old because it was a family business, and he's just like, Caleb, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." That's what he said. "I really trust you, and I think you're going to do a great job." And so I had like a, oh crap moment. I was like really excited and like, this is an amazing opportunity. And on the flip side, I actually had to meet with people, which is terrifying. And people that would come into the bank would be like, "I have grandchildren older than you. Like, what in the world can you help me with?" And so to answer your question, like I learned so much, and it just came from humility, learning how to listen, getting really clear on what people wanted, and realizing that money had way more to do with the heart than actual strategies and tactics. Majority of people that are broke, it's because of their heart, not because they don't know their next strategy. It's a discipline problem. And so those are some of the things I realized. And I got really fortunate early on in my life to just have that experience. And we didn't lose a single client through that, because I think every single person, whether they might have had that 10 minutes of horror, they realized that I was like, okay, I believe Caleb's going to do the right thing for me and work on my behalf. And I just worked my butt off to answer all their questions. And so overall, that was the story. Super grateful for that, but I took a cliche statement and ran with it.
Okay, I gotta back you up. What do you mean by broke because of their heart? I want to understand that, because it felt like this aha moment for me.
Majority of people, like if I ask you what is wealth, your initial mindset's going to go to money. But my definition of wealth is a sum total of your time, your relationships, your talents, resources. So money has something to do with it. But at the end of the day, a lot of people's biggest epiphanies that they have to have is wealth is not tied to just a currency or dollars. And so you can live a wealthy life by how you think. A lot of people will never be wealthy, will never be satisfied, will never be happy because they're chasing something that is something that's not going to make them happy. And so it's just one of those things where one of the epiphanies that I had early on is I started asking people, "What do you want?" And they could not tell me. These are people that are nearing retirement that literally spent their whole entire life doing something and couldn't tell me what they actually wanted. And that really, if you can't tell, fires me up, because we have one life and so many people are wasting it because no one has actually challenged them or asked them what they want. And so that was one of the missions of like, Craig knows this about our mission of like ROR doesn't stand for rate of return. It stands for return on results. I want people to be obsessed with results and then go back to the definition of wealth, use your time, your relationships, your resources, your talents, and get that. And you may have money, you may not, but that doesn't mean you're wealthy or not. And so the last example I'll share with that is Warren Buffett is worth over $1 billion, and nobody on this call would trade places with him. The reason is he's over 90 years old, and we value our time more than we value his $100 billion. So that is like an extreme example to say, listen, like you're wealthier than you think. And if you're not willing to trade places with Warren Buffett, you need to start thinking about yourself as a billionaire and stop disrespecting the way that you show up, negative people, negative thoughts, all those things. And so that was like the epiphany. Obviously at 19, I couldn't articulate that, but I started seeing a theme of people after people coming in and just honestly being super disrespectful of how they are living their life. And they've never been actually thoughtful and intentional of how they're living.
Yeah, it reminds me of that scene.
This is like a mic drop moment.
which I'm going to drop
Go ahead.
a Notebooks reference here, where I forget the actor's name, good looking dude. I forget what do you want? And I think it's like exactly that. It's the like Stephen Covey's in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, like in with the end in mind, and then you can work your way backwards. And I think like Caleb, the fact that you could understand that at age 19 and now articulate it at age 20 or however old you are, I just think it's such an incredible, an incredible thing.
So Craig, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the first books that I've ever read, and I actually got mentored by someone who is massively successful, and he made me read that book. And there's so many things that I'm grateful for, and if you actually look at some of the principles that we've ran our business, it's based on that book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Great. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people mention that book was really impactful in their lives. I'm curious how the bank taught you about money differs from how you view money now, because I feel like mainstream money and how like financial advisors, air quotes, are helping people is not really the way that financially independent people look at it.
100%. Yeah, I think it was a gradual steps for me, and one of the things that I'm grateful for being homeschooled and all that, I've always kind of thought outside the box. And so working at the bank as a financial advisor, I saw the stats. Like, people didn't have money, they couldn't retire. I had business owners that would be begging for a loan and then maxing out a SEP IRA and not having access to it. And so like it was just like, what are you doing? Like, it's like cash flow is so important, and yet we're not taught to maximize cash flow, to measure cash flow. And so that's one of the reasons I did leave the bank. If you ask, like, Caleb, what in the world are you doing at 21 years old, leaving a really cushy gig? It was for that same reason. I realized that life is short, and while I had it all, it wasn't fulfilling. And so at the end of the day, I was like, I need to stay true to my values. And so I left and to start Better Wealth so that I could teach principles that were harder to teach at a bank, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do at Better Wealth.
Yeah. So Better Wealth started essentially teaching people how to overfund life insurance. It's a strategy that entrepreneurs and real estate investors use not to invest, but really to as an alternative place to save and use their money at the same time. So that was one of the reasons why we started Better Wealth. And then now we have a tax arm, we have an investment arm, we have a coaching arm. And so we've kind of grown from there, and we use the internet to coach people in all 50 states. And so it's been a gradual thing. It started with this life insurance concept, and it's grown from there. And now we also teach financial advisors on how to be more effective in their practices as well. And so we're able to have our irons in a lot of fire, and our mission is to help unlock intentional living. And so whatever that looks like, whether it's a tax strategy, a life insurance strategy, an investment strategy, we want people to show up more intentionally. And Better Wealth is the vehicle, the business to unlock that for people.
I love it. Yeah. So I'm curious, I want you to go into the and asset or life insurance. I think that'll be really great for people to hear about. But is there some service that you offer that's good for people that are just getting started, that are just like, I want to do this financial independence thing and I don't know how to get going? Yeah,
we have what's called a financial X-ray. And for your audience, I'll just tease where if you want to learn more about the financial X-ray, make sure to reach out to us, because you're talking to the right people, because I know that we're working on some really exciting things in the future. But overall, the financial X-ray is a snapshot of where you're at and highlighting the inefficiencies. And so we believe everything can be modeled. We believe we can model it dynamically on a cash flow ratio balance. And we believe that we can create a list of inefficiencies that people are experiencing, and people should start addressing the holes in the boat before they get all excited about other investments. Like, there's so many opportunities to help someone today that we want to show them that, and then you can model out what an investment properties look like and what your FI number is, and actually put a 2-line graph to that. And so the financial X-ray is like our snapshot to take someone on, and then it gives them kind of a game plan of where to go from there.
Man, I need one of those. I love it.
All right, Caleb. So let's say that someone wants to move forward with this financial X-ray. What does that look like, right? I'm interested. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with me?
Yeah, so the financial X-ray is essentially 4 steps, we walk through those 4 steps with you and to produce a powerful result. And so step number 1 is you got to get us your data, and we're only as good as the data you give us. Step number 2 is you upload that, and while you upload that, we're plugging your data into our dynamic cash flow ratio model. And so we're getting ready for that. Step number 3 is we have our X-ray call. That's with a Better Wealth coach, and we're walking through the essentially clarity, where your cash flow is going, where your assets are, where your liabilities. We're starting to model out where you're at, and we can show you on a 2-line graph exactly when you're going to run out of money if you don't change anything in your life. 97% of people have some type of lack of balance in their life that they see for the very first time. No one's able to show them this, by the way. And so from there, then we go back through like everything from income to assets to liabilities to protection to other financial strategies that they may or may not know, and start creating a list of all the potential inefficiencies that they should be addressing. Then from that call, we give them a list of 1 to 3 things that they should take action today that will improve their life. And so that is the financial X-ray. We give them a custom video walkthrough of what they should do. They get a financial report. We give them a 65-page do-it-yourself manual with a bunch of checklists and quick wins. And then from there, some people say, hey, I actually want to work with you guys and help implement this. And some people have their own financial advisors or do it themselves. But it's our way to like show you exactly where you're at, because what we found as a company is very few people know where they're at. And if you don't know your problem, it's hard to get the solution.
Hey everyone, big news. Investify has now partnered with Rent Ready. And yes, we've partnered with Rent Ready because that is the software system that both me and Ziana use to do property management for our rental properties. It makes things super easy. We can send applications, get background checks and credit checks. Tenants, when they come in, can pay rent automatically through there. They can submit maintenance requests, do everything you need to do for property management all in one place. That's why Rent Ready is the thing that we've done. I've been using them for years now. And that's why we reached out to them for a relationship on the show. And so again, super excited to have them on board. If you go to rentready.com and use the code Investify, you'll get 50% off your first 6 months. That's right. 50% off your first 6 months. If you go to rentready.com, sign up and use the coupon code INVEST2FI. And can't wait to see you there. Let us know, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on wherever, and let us know what you think of Rent Ready. Because again, I think it's an amazing software. I use it all the time. You can access it from your phone. Amazing stuff. So thanks so much. And let's get back to the episode.
I love that. So you're digging into expenses, you're digging into income. And so guess what addresses both of those things? House hacking for the win, baby. Yes. Right? Honestly, I'm sure.
By the way, Craig.
Yeah.
By the way, Craig, house hacking shows up powerfully on the model because you literally, it's an asset that does multiple things, and the house hackers get multiple credits for their dollars. So yeah.
Yeah, I had to imagine that was an efficient thing in the model. And so one thing, Caleb, you and I, we sat down and did this maybe a year ago or with one of the coaches. And you budgeted one thing in kind of life insurance, which is never something that I was about. The only people that I've ever talked to about life insurance were the people that were just like scummy, they wouldn't let me understand it. They wouldn't help me understand it. I just hated the entire industry. And I was like, why would I want to pay for something so that when I die, someone else gets a whole bunch of money? Right? Didn't make any sense to me at the time. But you explained it in a way that actually benefited me while I was living, which was the number one perk.
Yeah.
And then the side benefit is that, oh, hey, by the way, my spouse can also, if anything does happen, she'll also be taken care of. So can you explain that? I think it's called, it's whole life insurance, the infinite banking concept. That's kind of the buzzwords around it.
Yeah, there's a lot of buzzwords, and I'll just break this down super simply. It's essentially using a life insurance policy, and instead of using it as just a death benefit policy that someday will happen when you die, you're hyper-funding it. You're getting as little death benefit as possible, and you're maximizing all your cash in there. And the reason you do that is there's certain tax benefits that allow your money to grow the rest of your life tax-free. You can utilize it tax-free, and it will also get passed down tax-free. And so it's a really tax-saving, efficient savings long-term. But what I became really fascinated by is it's also a paper contract that you can leverage against, like a HELOC, like if you do a lien on your stock holdings, that your money and all the benefits of life insurance are going to continue to be there and continue to grow, but you still have cash that you could go do a house hack or invest in your business or invest in yourself. And so I obviously had a negative view of life insurance. 99% of the way life insurance is designed is horrible. And then when I started learning, like, oh, banks, like over 3,000 banks in the USA put their tier one assets into life insurance. And a lot of corporations have it, and a lot of mentors and a lot of people I was learning from were stuffing a ton of money into life insurance, not because they were investing in it, because they were saving in it. It was getting a better rate of return than their savings account. They're also leveraging against it to reinvest. And then I call it the and asset, because it truly is, it's an and that gives your dollars more than one job if you do it correctly. And so that's I just learned a ton about it. And I was like, man, like it also helps in retirement and all these other things. They could call it a super bond because of its, tax-free nature in the future and all these things. I'm like, man, why, like, life insurance has such a bad rap, and it's because a lot of life insurance agents and financial advisors are scummy, don't understand it, are just trying to pitch it. It's not right for everyone. Even the way I understand it, majority of America shouldn't get it. But if you're entrepreneurial, if you're a real estate investor, it can be an asset that it can allow you to save more, get lifetime uninterrupted compound growth, and give you the ability to use capital to invest in other things that will create more cash flow. And when done properly, it will protect you, it will allow you to do a bunch of cool things. And so that was like the epiphany, and that's ultimately I wrote the book, and that's what we're kind of known for. A lot of people come to us just to set up that strategy. And while I'm not a huge fan of just one product, like I don't know if that's a good fit or not, it is something that when set up properly, it can be an amazing foundational asset for you.
Yeah, and I just want to recap that a little bit, right? And so basically, what that is that you open up a whole life policy, right? A whole life policy, and you're going to have to fund that policy. Let's say you put 50 grand in that policy. You're then able to take a loan out on about 85% on that policy, and you get that as cash. And so that 50,000 is growing in one area. You're able to take, let's say, 40,000 out, and you're able to invest 40,000 of that in another area. And now, while that $50,000 every year you're getting a return on that, eventually that's going to grow more than what you originally put into it. And then you're able to actually use 80% of that will be more than what you put into it, and you have more money to invest than you would otherwise. And this happens in I think in my model, it's like year 6 or year 7. So it's a life insurance, right? It's just a long-term play, but it can be and will be very powerful after 7, 8, 9, 10 years.
It's powerful even right now, but there is that difference of like you put in $1, you only get access to 80 cents. And there will be a time where you're putting in $1 and you get access to more than $1. But you're totally right. Life insurance needs to make sense long-term. If it doesn't make sense long-term for someone, they would be better off using their money in a cash. So it's like a short-term, long-term. But for people that are long-term thinkers, it's phenomenal because, you get majority of the money up front and you get all the benefits long-term, and it's that 1-2 punch. And Craig, you explained it extremely well.
Thanks. So it took a long time. And so, Caleb, so what is the rate of return of that life insurance? Is it the same, like 6-7%? Is it the same as the stock market?
No, usually the rate of return, like the actual cash on cash rate of return, is anywhere from 3.5 to 4.5% long term. But that's a tax-free rate of return, and that's with all the other insurance benefits that you get as well. And so usually when you factor in taxes, because if you compare it to a savings account, you do have to pay ordinary income tax on interest. You don't know that because we don't make any money on interest, but that's just the reality. So you take a 3.5 to 4% in your life insurance, you have to get around 5 or 6% in like a like asset to compete. So it's nothing crazy. It's again, like you would never invest your money into this. I would never invest my money into this. But with all the other benefits, we figure that you would need to make 10 or 11% every single year just to compete with the boring old life insurance. Not that the life insurance gets you that, but it gives you all those benefits that you would need to earn that just to compete with all the benefits that it gets you. And it's not an investment, it's just a savings alternative.
Perfectly explained.
Yeah, I like it because it feels really safe, right? So, I mean, if you put stuff in the stock market and you go, well, I think I'm going to make 10%, that's kind of a dangerous play, right? But at least this money is just sitting there kind of waiting for you.
Yeah, it's like, what's the ROI of a golf club? If you golf with Craig and I, it's not good. you know? And if you're Tiger Woods, it's like really profitable. If you're Phil Mickelson, it's really profitable. So it goes back to what's the ROI of having control of capital? I don't know. For you guys, it's a lot. For me, it's a lot. For some people, it might be bad because they could use their money in a bad way. So I don't want to pitch this as like this is going to make everyone wealthy. It will make the right people. It will give you more options, which is awesome. But for the wrong person, they would be better off locking up their money so they can't touch it, but they're never going to be wealthy with that mindset.
I love that. I do like you've helped me see the light, and I do love this subject. I think it's been explained perfectly here. This is not to pitch you life insurance whatsoever. It's just to help explain the infinite banking concept, how it can be powerful in the long term. At the end of the day, you know, I don't think, Caleb, you can fight me on this maybe, but I don't think it's as powerful as, or like as life changing as like a house hack would be. Or if you could house hack 5 years in a row, you'll be financially independent, right? Like we're talking about making your financial situation as efficient as possible. Life insurance should be part of that equation if you're thinking that way. Is that right, Caleb, or am I wrong?
Correct. 100%. We see house hacking and starting a business and all those things are asset-based activities. Those have the ability to move the needle in a massive way, create financial freedom. Think of life insurance as a more efficient protection and savings vehicle combined together when set up properly should enhance your ability to do that. But you're totally right. Like if I had to, it's not even the right question because we're talking about investments versus non-investments. But yeah, I'm glad you point that out because some people are like, hey, if I just put my money in this widget, my life will be changed. If anyone's ever selling you that, run. Like that's just so not true. But you should be looking for efficiencies, and then you should be looking for things like house hacking or starting a business that will change, that will really be that needle mover for you.
All right. So life insurance is a big part of better wealth, right? What are some other, tidbits in terms of financial efficiencies, or maybe like what are some financial inefficiencies that you see in some people that you think can be addressed immediately?
Yeah. I mean, let's go through some of the top inefficiencies. It's not making enough money. It's a huge inefficiency. It's like, a lot of people can solve their problem by making more money. Another thing is how you view debt. A lot of people do not have a framework for good debt versus bad debt. And then if you have bad debt, we don't know where to start on how to pay off that bad debt. Your credit score, super valuable. We're not taught in financial freedom courses on how to actually, like your credit score is a tool to build wealth. And we're not even being taught how to leverage that well. And so that's something that we bring a lot of light to. A lot of people are overpaying on taxes. And if you don't have a good tax strategy, you could be losing $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year. Do the compounded value of that and what that could be over your lifetime. And then on the flip side, when it comes to investing, a lot of people are investing in assets like they don't have any exit strategy. So you're in a good place if you're listening to what you guys are up to, because house hacking done the right way is one of the best ways to build wealth, versus like putting your money in an account that you don't have control over and waiting till 65 to maybe do the 4% rule. Like it works, it's just not even on the same planet.
Totally agree. You said the number one thing you said.
So well spoken.
Yeah. So the number one thing you said is the number one inefficiency is people need to make more money, right? That's easier said than done. Like what is maybe like a piece of advice you might make to someone who's looking to make more money?
Well, and I'm actually going to contradict myself. Like I do stand by that, but let's take the average person. Let's say that you make 10%, you save 10% of your money, which is being extremely generous to the American population. So if you're going to keep your savings rate at 10%, you need to make $10 for every $1 we save. So one of the parts of the financial X-ray, it's really important, is like, hey, if I can save someone, like $10,000, that's an equivalent of you making 100 extra thousand. So that alone, like that's why savings are important. If you're scrappy and you're like, man, I really want to go to the next level, making money is like, once you get efficient, making money is the lever that, especially if you can be disciplined, it can change your life. I know it's changed all of ours. And so it really comes down to the mindset, and money follows value. A lot of times we live in a world where it's like, and this is why I'm a little concerned about the crypto market, because it's like we're seeing quick money and it's almost like the gamble effect. And we're like, oh, we can put our money into this NFT and just make money. And that's not tied to value creation. And so what we teach, and this is just like my 2 cents, is figure out a service or a product that you can create, a service or a product, and that's valuable if there's a marketplace of people that are willing to pay for that, and then make it better and figure out a way to leverage that. And levers are, whether it's media or people or capital, all that is just gasoline on taking value to the next level. And so if you want to make more money, figure out how to create more value and leverage that value to the marketplace.
And Caleb, that takes it back to what you said previously when you were at the bank, right? And it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you care, right? And so if you really care, you're going to provide a lot of value. When you provide a lot of value, you're going to make a lot of money. It tends to follow in that direction. So
100%. And the other big thing is if you have clarity, that's one of the best things you can do with your life. If you just know what you want, everything gets aligned, your values get aligned. And I know people, we all know people that are like super happy with $50,000 a year. Like they're like able to show up powerfully in their life, and that's amazing. For me, I need more money to actually live an intentional life. But like that's like, if you're not willing to be clear and honest with yourself, we're barking up the wrong tree, because it's like, why be efficient? Why invest? Why do a house hack if you're not funding something bigger than yourself?
Love it.
Yeah.
Love that.
Makes sense.
All right, Caleb, you have enlightened us in many ways here on this episode. And unfortunately, we need to get into the last part of the show, which is
the final four.
Z, kick us off.
Yeah. So Caleb, what are you reading right now?
I'm actually reading a book by Dan Kennedy on ruthless management of people, which probably makes me sound like a horrible person. But I'm reading that, and I'm going to be interviewing the author of Founders, who interviewed a bunch of amazing people. And so I'm reading his book. And if I pull up Audible, I also read The Gap and the Gain recently. So those are 3 books I've read recently that are improving my life.
Nice. I'm in like a mastermind kind of group, an accountability group, and they love to talk about The Gap and the Gain. So yeah, I imagine you got some good nuggets out of that.
Our whole company is reading it for our book club. And it is so powerful because without stealing the concept, it's a lot of times it's easy to be in the gap in life. And it tells us we literally are alive, breathing air. What are we complaining about? We're so blessed to just be alive in 2022. And it shifts our perspective and allows us to be more abundant and be more intentional.
I've heard of so much recently.
Maybe
I feel like I've read it, but I haven't yet. It's on my list.
It doesn't work that way, Craig.
I know. I'm going to read it. All right, Caleb. Second question. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I've ever received is don't disrespect you as your number one asset. And really, it was the statement of make sure to not diversify your ability to have an impact in your life, and be super, super generous with how you live your life. So I know I gave you kind of a couple statements, but it was that kind of theme, because my whole life is optimized to enhance our one life that is a massive gift that could be over in a second.
Powerful.
Wow. I feel like this episode is all about like self-love and self-worth. I'm really into it. This is like unexpected, but beautiful. What would you say is your why for doing what you do?
My why is to help people see and reach their highest potential. And I love that. And I actually read Stephen Covey's book when I was 19 years old and crafted that mission statement. And I'm like, I want to live a life that helps people, number one, see it for themselves, but then do whatever I can to help them reach their potential. And it's not a peak on the mountain. It goes back to that self-love and concept of like, if you're showing up your highest and best and you're reaching your highest potential, think about the ripple effect that's going to have. And unfortunately, that's impossible to do if you don't have your money thing figured out. Because if your money thing's not figured out, your mindset's not going to be at the highest potential. It's going to be figuring out the scarcity-minded questions of how do I make ends meet.
Dude, I think you should be like Tony Robbins on a stage, like hyping people up. I feel like that could be your future, but whatever.
Thanks.
Maybe when you hit 30. All right, man.
Yeah.
Last question. Toilet paper, over or under?
Over, for sure.
Awesome, man. Caleb, where can people find out more about you, more about Better Wealth and everything that you guys do?
So betterwealth.com is our website. You can check out a ton of resources there. If you email me, Caleb, CALEB, @betterwealth.com, and just let me know that you've heard me on the show. We have some special gifts and checklists and some resources to give you. And if you're into social media, I'm on all the platforms. I'm not posted on TikTok yet, but wait, in April, I'm going to start. So you can give me some love on that platform. I'm grateful to be on here, guys, and I'm just grateful for the businesses that you guys are building and the team that you're building and what you're teaching people about financial independence. Like, these messages need to get out, and I love how you guys communicate and play off of each other, and it's going to be exciting to see what the future holds.
Awesome,
Thank
man.
you.
Thanks
And
so
thank
much
you for being
coming
so
on.
generous.
And that was Caleb Guilliams, everyone. Z, what did you think of Caleb?
I love Caleb. He is so freaking inspiring. And for the fact of just his age alone, everything that he's accomplished, he's just a firecracker of energy. I love that this show was so much about self-worth, generosity, self-love, like, appreciating yourself. So I think I got a lot of nuggets. It was like today's show was for me. I'm going to go home and appreciate myself now.
Yeah, and I'll just say that like everything that Caleb mentions on the show, he truly lives. Like I do know him as a person, and he's a good friend of mine, and he is just relentlessly trying to value in other people's lives, knowing that it's just going to come back in tenfold probably, right? And it has, frankly. Like he's 26 and he's crushing it, right? And he's learned to just like give, and also receive, right? I think there's a concept, I think it's in the book, The Go-Giver, where it's like some people just like to give and not
Yeah.
receive. But when you don't receive, you're preventing someone else the opportunity to give, right? And so that's one thing
Yeah.
that like I think Caleb is just one of the many things that Caleb has mastered the art of. It's just how to give and how to receive in a good way, and just how to just his output on life and his intentionality is just absolutely incredible. And he's truly an inspiration to at least me, and I think you too, Z. But
No, I definitely agree. And I'm hoping to get invited to more of these cool things when you guys hang out. It's like feeling left out here, okay? What up?
well, you gotta Boulder's just too far away, you know.
Gotta be cooler.
Yeah, you gotta be cooler.
It's cool. It's cool.
Next time, Z, you'll get invited. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you are enjoying the Invest to Five podcast, please leave us a rating and review on iTunes. It is super helpful. And also hit us up on Instagram. Let us know what you think. Let us know of an episode that you've liked. I'm the Fi guy. Ziana is Ziana McIntyre. And yeah, let us know how we're doing. So with that being said, we'll see y'all next week.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.